14 people so far. I want to learn to energetically align. I'm always looking for new ways to support my well-being. In stage 4 lockdown, oh my gosh. Hi, Kylie. This is all new to me. Kaz suggested it. Hi, Lorraine. Welcome. I hope that I can keep it as understandable and digestible as possible. Now, I wonder how... Melbourne, Burwood, Glen Waverley. How do I record? Oh my gosh. Annie, I'm just letting one more person in. Hi, Annie. I think I have to stop the share. Am I recording? Does it say I'm recording? Yes, that's amazing. So it's recording.
Yep, it says recording.
Yes. Great, thank you. All right, guys, I'm going to start. I'm going to keep the chat open, but please know that throughout today's workshop, I'm going to just be running through the content. Reason being that I value everybody's time and I want to make sure that I cover a lot of information within the hour. Also, you're going to be hearing about a program that I'm running, which actually launches by the end of this webinar, this workshop. And so I want to make sure that I am keep within the hour time frame that I've set. The intention for me hosting this workshop is really about supporting the collective. This is all of us to understand how important energy medicine is and what energy medicine is exactly, because I think that there's a lot of myth around what it is and how you can access it. And there are reasons why these are myths and why people haven't really spoken about it, and why this information isn't broadcast. Because as far as I'm concerned, this is information that should be taught in schools, and we should all know how to access our energy because we do it anyway, all the time. We work with our energy, we move our energy, and because we do it unconsciously, there's a missing piece, right? Because anything that you do unconsciously, the minute you bring conscious awareness to it, can be done so much better. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Ariana Pina. I'm an energy medicine mentor. I have been working with energy for a very, very long time. I have a long history when it comes to energy anatomy, but also in the physical anatomy and physical body. I am an ex-dancer, dancing all over the world for many years when I was younger, and I know my shizzle. I've also studied yoga and Pilates. I've done anatomical focused studies and theoretical focused studies of movement. I've worked with energies when it comes to movement, so energetic movement as well. And why is that important for you to know? Because I'm teaching from a place of experience. I'm teaching from a place of curiosity, where I've taken all of these practice over the last 2 decades and I have implemented them in my own life, and then created a business out of it where I've supported other people to heal and self-heal by using these practices. A lot of this information that I'm going to be sharing with you tonight, I haven't actually shared before, because I've been using it in my own life and in my own practice to the point where it's been very practical based. So the way that I support clients to heal themselves and to remove energetic wounds or scars or emotional barriers that are stopping them from moving up in their life, or along in their life, all of that is actually energy medicine. And so when I contract with clients and I work with them one-on-one, that is a subtle energy contract where I actually work with them not only in the physical world, so we do a lot of talking and we work through childhood wounds, and we really try to excavate that which has lodged itself not only in our physical body but our energetic body as well. But then I support them through energetic practices, whether they're doing it themselves or I'm supporting them through distant healing. So when I was, this is about 10 years ago now, I had an injury. And for someone who had been studying dancing and was a yoga teacher at the time, this is a really big deal for me because I literally couldn't move. I had frayed the cartilage in my hip joints, and I had hip dysplasia and a range of other issues. And I was kind of stuck where I literally, where I didn't know what to do. And by the grace of the universal force and source, I started to work with an energy mentor. And she taught me how to align and clear my body first. And even though this process took months, it was with her and in her presence full time that helped me heal. Because at the time I walked into her practice, I was hobbling around. And by the time I left, close to 9 months later, I was moving really freely after doctors had told me that I would never move properly again without hip surgery. So to have such a profound effect on my physical body, gosh, it just started the little hamster wheel with me. After that, noticing that there's so much more that could be exposed through these practices, energetically, emotionally, and also mentally. So what else is, as an analogy, broken? Like what was frayed, what needed psychic stitching, and how could I go about my life really learning how to bring all of these elements into a practice and then help myself rid myself of those wounds. For those of you who, this information is completely new, like what are the wounds? What are these psychic things that she's talking about? I'm going to get into that. Just hang tight. And if you have any questions as I'm progressing, please pop them in the chat. And like I said, I will circle around at the end to answer all of your questions. My intention is to not leave this webinar, this workshop, until all your questions have been answered. All right. Right. Gosh, catch a breath. This is just a couple of images of me going through all of my trainings and my practices. And what I love about the photo on the right-hand side is me doing my sound healing diploma. And you can see how I'm crouched down and my hips are flexed, which just was such a testament at the time, because when I started all of this work, I couldn't sit. I couldn't stand for long periods of time. Lying down was painful. So by going through all of this healing, all of these healing modalities and these processes, I was able to move again. Like I was literally able to move. It was such a blessing. So what is energy medicine? The terms energy medicine can be, flung around like you can't believe. If you look at energetic healing, biofield healing, bioenergetic healing, chakra healing, aura healing, energy work, meridian-based healing, energy anatomy, vibrational medicine, subtle energy healing. Oh my gosh, there's so many different words and terms used for energy medicine. And they all refer to practices relating to a certain vibrational or frequency-based level of energy, right? So whenever we talk about energy medicine, we're talking about frequency and vibration. And without getting too much into the sciencey part of it, just know that everything in this world vibrates at a different frequency. We are all made up of energy. We all emit energy. And so it's really important to know that we are not separate from energy. It's not something that's apart from us. It's actually who we are. It's part of our DNA, our physical bodies, and as we are going to learn, many other bodies that move from our center outwards. I think one of the most crazy myths is that energy medicine is complicated, and yes, there are many layers that energy medicine can we can use to actually create much deeper practices, but it's really simple to learn how to move energy and how to use energy medicine to self-heal. We are the ones who make it complicated. And I think that there are many different theories as to why human beings have tried to make energy medicine complicated. One of which that once you place the power into the self, into a person, you and me, to self-heal, it does have a ripple effect on certain healthcare industries where, you know, a lot of money is to be made on placing your power in someone else's hands. So if all things emit an energy field, right, and we're basing all of this discussion on a quantum physics, not on Newtonian physics, that field in itself, that energetic field, heals and generates healing. And so when we look at energy medicine as a topic, we go back over 3,000 years. This is not new stuff. Energy medicine includes all modalities that focus on the body's energy communications, and all concepts of energy are light and sound and electromagnetism and body, mind, and spirit. So it's like everything that you experience in this world is energy. It's just a different form of energy. Energy medicine wasn't called energy medicine back in the day. It just simply was medicine. It was called traditional medicine. But as time went on, we changed things to Western medicine and Eastern medicine. And somewhere along the line, everything got segregated, as did the body and the mind got segregated, as did the spirit and the body get segregated. But back in these days, when Hippocrates was out in 460 BC, he was the father of medicine, right? And so,
Oh, you went into my chemistry.
And Ashkin. And with this Greek physician, we know him as one of the most outstanding figures in history, in the history of medicine. He was the father of medicine, the founder of the Hippocratic Oath, which we still use in Western medicine today. In fact, even energy medicine practitioners or holistic practitioners and complementary therapists will use the Hippocratic Oath at some stage. But what I found really interesting is he was given a trademark, right? Which we still use today, and that's this emblem on the right-hand side of your screen. Now, in the chat, I'd really love to know what you guys see from that emblem. What do you see that that may resemble something to do with energy medicine or energy in general? I know from a yogic perspective, we may be able to see something in this image, which if I enlarge in the image here, you can see it's called the Kadakius. I never know if I'm saying that right, but anyway. And of course, the Hippocratic Oath was about doing no harm. But yeah, it's snakes and angels. Yeah, so you've got the snakes interlacing, intertwining with the wings and a ball on the top. Yeah, so this is the energy. Now I want you to imagine that that rod is a spine, right? And you've got the two energies moving and interlacing up the spine. And, you know, they thought of it as snakes around a pole. Well, we see it as snakes around a pole, but it can be related to a lot of things that we now call the Kundalini rising or energy rising up, right? So here's a very basic image of what that looks like. The Kadakius. This has been used for over 2,500 years to symbolize the body's subtle energy system, which was documented really well from way back BC. And this is an intricate part of all medical practices, not only now, but in centuries past. It's, as I mentioned, still a part of alternative and complementary medicine. All holistic practitioners are not only familiar with this sign, but it's also how we use the subtle energy system with our patients and with our clients. So when we talk about subtle energy, we naturally refer to energy centers that run up and down the spine. And so this isn't a really beautiful and clear picture, but you can see how the serpents are interlacing their way around a central point with energy centers placed very strategically along the central channel. And so whilst there are dozens of such energy bodies, the best known are chakras. I'm going to refer to them as energy centers. The word chakra can be quite polarizing in some states. But regardless of what you call them, they interface between subtle energy structures and then the physical body. And so each one of these energy centers relates to a certain part within the physical body. And so, we can also look at this from a metaphysical point of view and see that the two sides, the two snakes that are interlacing their way around the spine, are known as the two channels, both male and feminine. So male and feminine, but female. But we don't really look at it as, the masculine and the feminine is what I wanted to say. But we don't really see it as masculine and feminine like male and female. We actually see it as energies, masculine and feminine energies, and how they need to be harmonized and balanced at all times within us as human beings in order for us to reach liberation. Now, if we look at a physical body, which now you should see on your screen, a physical body with where these energy centers are strategically placed along the physical body, we know that the number 1 is the base chakra or base energy center, which starts at the base of the spine. And for all intents and purposes of this recording, we're only going to talk about 7 energy centers, although there are many more. And it runs from the base of the spine all the way up to the crown of the head. And physically and anatomically, each of these energy centers is actually placed in and around a nerve plexus, which is a physical structure of nerves within the physical body. So even though these practices and these beautiful ways of understanding our subtle energy body this comes from many traditions and was created and known before Western medicine, what science is now or has realized is that these traditional Eastern theories do in fact interrelate with the physical body. And I think it's just incredible to know that the East and the West don't need to be segregated. We can create them as part of one beautiful offering, which I've been doing for almost 10 years now. And it's just been incredibly powerful. So once we know all of these things, we know that the West and the East can come together to create some really powerful strategies and ways for us to liberate ourselves from past traumas or wounds or anything that we've experienced from childhood, or, if you're so inclined to think, from past lives. Why wouldn't we use energy medicine to help us move our way through the world? Why wouldn't we take advantage of it? We know that research has shown that subtle energies and the structures can actually create our physical reality. And by examining the fields, the channels, and the bodies of the subtle anatomy, you can probably diagnose. In fact, I've done this quite a lot, although I would never diagnose or prescribe anything for anyone because I'm not a medical practitioner. But knowing what I know and from the experience that I've gained, I can look at a person's physical structure and or their emotional experiences, and I can look at what they're experiencing and know before they occur what's going to happen in the physical body. Because what happens in your thoughts and your emotions, generally, if that's not taken care of, if that's not healed from an emotional or a mental perspective, it will eventually make its way into the physical body, right? And cause dis-ease or disease. And so that's not fear mongering. That's not me trying to make you all scared. It's just a way of, it's a way of life. There are different ways in which we can learn about mental disturbances and emotional disturbances and how they lodge themselves in the physical body. But I'm not going to go into that too much with tonight's workshop. I'm going to have a sip of water whilst I'm doing that. Can you let me know if there are any questions from what I've just said? Because we're about to go into the second part of this workshop, or the second third of the workshop. Is this new information? Is this new information for you guys? Does anyone know about this? Keep your comments coming. I really want to know whether I need to flesh this out a little bit more for you. I've been speaking so quickly. I actually just realized that. But hopefully you will receive the recording as well so you can watch it again and again and again. Some new, some I knew. Some new and some I knew. Not really heard anything like this before. Yeah. It's not surprising. Not surprising. Okay, yes and no. So this image here that you see on your screen shows various theories and modalities and how they actually all speak the same language. So whether you're looking at it from an Indian perspective or a Chinese perspective or a metaphysical perspective, it doesn't or scientific perspective, really, it doesn't really matter because it's all one and the same thing. The energy centers, also known as the chakras, are placed in the physical body, as you can see on your far left. And you'll see that they don't just sit within the physical body. They're like radiating little balls of energy that exist within the physical body. And they also radiate forwards and backwards and up and down. If you can imagine energy that isn't contained, it's just all over the place, right? It's just vibrating and oscillating and moving within the physical body. And so if this was a full energy center workshop, I would go into each of these energy centers and really explain to you what it is and how they work. But for the purpose of today, I just wanted to illustrate to you how the energy centers also tie in with the meridians. The meridians is from Chinese meridian theory. And so whether it's a lineage or a theory from a different culture, it's important to understand that these subtle systems have been shared between peoples and cultures for thousands of years. There are many, many theories about meridians and chakras and energetic fields and energy centers, and from expert to expert, they differ greatly. It really does depend on who's talking about it and what sort of experience they have had with each of these centers. Now, I mentioned very briefly in the last slide that if you have any mental disturbances or emotional disturbances, that they can actually make their way into lodgements in the physical body. And so we call these weaknesses. And if you have any weaknesses or disturbances in your energetic field and they do lodge themselves into your physical body, this creates like a pathway, like it lodges in a pathway, which then obviously makes the energy more difficult to flow freely. I want you to imagine like the bloodstream ushers nutrients to our cells and our organs, right? And the meridians deliver energy to every molecule of our being. And so the middle picture, the image that's on your screen, is a very small image of all of the meridians from Chinese meridian theory. And so imagine them like energy channels running through your body. What would happen if you stop the flow of blood to an organ? The same thing would happen if you stop the flow of energy to a part of the body. So if you can imagine you have a disturbance or a block, it's not really a blockage, it's like a weakness that happens in a particular part of your body and it clogs up this particular meridian or energy channel. Well, this is gonna, like, just the same as if you were to kink a hose pipe, it's going to actually stop the flow of energy, and you can experience some sort of, discomfort or challenge in particular areas in your life. I know, for example, something that's quite common is when you just find it very difficult to speak your truth or to voice something that is of importance to you, or you get to the point where you just want to say something but you can't find the words, or you feel like your throat is blocked. This could be a sign of energetic blockage. And I don't really like to use the word blockage, but I'm using it for, just for impact here. But it could just be a weakness in the energy channel that is flowing in and around your throat center. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you guys? We want to make sure that our energy channels are always open and free. And there are certainly many different types of practices for us to explore. But the whole purpose of energy medicine is really to help us free our energy from stagnating and helping us to allow that energy to move freely within our physical body, right? And I've definitely felt stuck in my voice. Yeah, I have too. And I just know that there's a blockage. Like I said, I don't really use the word blockage, but like a weakness, or there's something going on there, right? There's just something happening. What's really interesting to learn about all of this information is that theorists, psychological theorists, look at the energy centers and know that they have been developed in certain stages of our lives. So when we are in utero up until the age of 2 years old, the base energy center will be developed. And as we get older, each energy center then gets developed thereafter. And each of these energy centers relate to various emotions and various ways of us experiencing the world. So very briefly, the base energy center is really responsible for how we experience the world, our safety, how we feel in the world, what is our relationship to the physical things that we have in our life, the physical life that we live. You know, it's very much about fear and anxieties and depressions and how we experience all of these, especially now during these times and challenges. Quite often I'd be able to relate something that's triggering a client now during, you know, the pandemic, for example, to an experience that they may have perceived. So it doesn't have to be a real threat, but a perception of a threat in their earlier childhood up until 2 years old. And sometimes it can even extend past the 2 years old because everybody's very different. But the developmental stages of each chakra also relates to how your brain waves change throughout your life. And so for the first 7 years of your development, your brain is changing and what you're absorbing is changing. And so in those experiences and developmental stages, this is where your energy centers start to form. And gosh, this is really the basis of all the work that I do. In fact, a lot of people will teach you how to cleanse your energy, quote unquote, cleansing your energy. And a lot of people will teach you how to move your energy. And it's all fair and well whilst you're doing it. But have you ever had the experience that the minute you stop doing something that's good for you and then everything falls to bits? Yeah. The whole point of that is because you probably haven't plucked it out at the root. You haven't looked for the root cause of what it is that's been, quote unquote, blocking your energy or creating weakness. And so you've been doing all these practices that have been helping the flow of energy, but the minute you stop, you actually have this experience where you're right back where you started. And 9 times out of 10, it's because the energetic weakness and that experience or the trauma is still lodged within the body, and it was, you know, created in those earlier stages of life. And so this is a very Jungian perspective of looking at energy medicine. This is a lot of it is intertwined with psychology and psychotherapy, and really looking at the psyche, really understanding how all of these practices don't only affect the physical body and our spiritual life, but also the way we experience the world through our emotions and through, you know, the way we think, whether that's conscious thoughts or subconscious thoughts, right? This is just very fascinating for me. It forms a lot of the basis of my work, to be honest. When we start to think about the energy anatomy, which are the energy centers that we have been talking about that run up and down the spine, and then also the meridians that run in and around the body, we also then look at energy medicine as the energy bodies that move out from our physical body. And I work predominantly with the physical body, the etheric body, the emotional body, the mental body. And so this is the physical experience that we have. So our physical bodies, our sensations and the feelings we have. And then we move through the emotional body, which are emotions, energy in motion, the mental body, the thoughts that we have, the subconscious and conscious thoughts. And it's through interlacing not only energy anatomy, but also energy bodies, the energy bodies, that I can really look with a client and help them to self-heal and claim their power back, because we are not separate from these bodies. We are all interlaced and intertwined, not only these systems, but also with one another. And so that's a story for another day. But when we explore energy bodies, just the same way as we explore energy flow through the centers and through the meridians, we know that all of these things together create the whole. All of them together create the whole. And so we want to always make sure that we're considering not only the physical body, the energy centers, but with each energy center, as you can see from the red energy center all the way up to the purple, each one of those energy centers have a physical experience in the world. They each relate to an emotion that you may experience. They each relate to thoughts, blockages, programs, ways of thinking, so it does become complex. But if you strategically and sequentially work through each center, you'll start to understand what is it that your personal experience has brought to each one of these energy centers, and how you've been programmed, or how you've programmed yourself to react to certain situations. So an example of this is, let's look at the pandemic as it has been happening. A lot of my clients have been feeling triggered by fear and anxiety. And so we would, naturally look at the first energy center, which is all about our safety and our security in the world. And then we would look through, whether that person is experiencing, what are the thoughts that person is experiencing? What are the emotions that are associated with those thoughts? And is there any discomfort in the physical body? And if so, where? And by looking deep into those aspects of self, then we can start to use energy medicine to help us cleanse those weaknesses and almost pluck those disturbances out from the root. Yeah? We good? Check the group chat. Yeah, nothing else. Please feel free to let me know if I've missed anything out, or if there's anything that you don't understand. I am talking rather quickly. So as I just mentioned, each of those energy channels relating to the physical, the energetic, the emotional, and the mental body. And if you look at your screen from the right-hand side all the way to the left, generally we have a thought. That thought creates an emotion. It has a way that it affects our energy body. And if we don't look at those thoughts and those emotions and the way that we're feeling and what we're experiencing in our lives, if we suppress or repress the way that we are experiencing certain situations and circumstances, we will eventually experience a disturbance in our physical body. Niggles, pains, dis-ease, or diseases even can come from energetic disturbances, which 9 times out of 10 are from mental and emotional suppression. When you place more value on being healed than learning how to self-heal, the issue that we experience with this is that a lot of the times people will go to a healer or to someone who's going to help them and fix them, quote unquote, which, by the way, nobody needs to be fixed. And we place our power in somebody else. And so when I talk about self-healing, I really mean self-healing. I really mean going into the darkness and the shadows of our own experiences and really understanding why we feel the way we feel. Where do they come from? Why do these thoughts plague us? Why are we experiencing life the way that we are? Because, from a spiritual perspective or a utopian perspective, we really need to consider that life is here to be enjoyed and lived. And yes, there are challenges and bad experiences and quote unquote negative emotions, which need to be experienced as part of the human experience. But ultimately, we have the opportunity to live our lives with freedom of expression, freedom of thought, freedom of the way we emote. And the minute you think that someone outside of you is going to fix you, you actually lose all of that freedom. You lose that ability to tap back into your own inner wisdom and learn how to self-heal. And so I termed this workshop Energy Medicine 101, how to manifest abundance. And it's really important for me to make sure that you know that manifesting is actually a byproduct of co-creation. And co-creation is when you and the universe, or your body's innate intelligence and the intelligence that lives within you, work together to create beautiful, healing experiences in your life. It's not that you go to someone in a white coat and ask them to fix you, because that is very short-lived. And of course, you can go for support. You can go to someone to really help you get over hurdles and ways in which, help you see new ways of thinking and new ways of being. But when you place that power on that person that's outside of you, then you're ultimately handing over your power. And this is one of the biggest tragedies I see of our time, because a lot of the times when we hand over our power, we completely negate our body's own intelligence and its own wisdom. The other issue that I see with when we hand over this power is that sometimes we can experience that there's just one panacea. Oh my gosh. One way to fix something. So there is no one size fits all approach. There is you and your individual body and your individual experiences, and there is a way that you support yourself to heal. And so whenever you go and see a spiritual mentor or a guide or a mentor in general, please note that they are guiding you back to yourself. You are the teacher. The guide is simply guiding you back to what you originally knew when you landed up on this earth. And so you have the wisdom that is within you already. You just need to learn how to access that wisdom. And I know that this is a lot of conflicting information out there that teaches you, you got to do this, and then you got to do this and follow this 5-step program. And then, all your wishes will come true, and just manifest this way and don't do this because that's a really bad omen. And that may be fair and well for the person speaking that. That may be their truth. But ultimately, when you dig deep down inside yourself, you will know that your truth is unlike anybody else's. Your truth is the only thing that's going to help you self-heal. So don't listen to the conflicting information that's going on outside of you, because it doesn't matter anyway. You are the only one who can help you heal within. The other problem that I see with all of this one size fits all approach and placing our power outside of us is that it's not just surface level. We experience, industries that actually make money off us being unwell and needing to be healed. And all the fundamentals of self-healing is actually kept a secret. And so if you really started to understand how all of these energetic bodies and bodies, anatomical bodies and energetic bodies that work outside of you work together, you would be able to understand how you operate in the world and be able to, cleanse your own energy and work from a place of self-healing, so that you don't ever have to actually ask anybody to help you again, and to quote unquote fix you. People want you to stay small. They want you to want them. And if you think that you need to be fixed all the time, that actually keeps you in a place of not only smallness, but powerlessness. Not because I want to talk about doom and gloom, but ultimately when you hand over your power away, you are not only disempowered, but 9 times out of 10 when clients come to see me, they are confused, so confused, and they have lost the concept of them knowing that they have a choice. They're living unconsciously, and they're at risk of feeling the unnecessary emotions that they may even be addicted to. And so when you think a thought and you feel an emotion, that creates a chemical reaction in your body, and that in itself can be addictive. I know that's crazy to think that we're addicted to negative emotions, but Dr. Joe Dispenza does so much good work on the way that we can become addicted to emotions. So if that rings a bell for you, please check out his work. It's Dr. Joe Dispenza. I think about how I used to think these things. I had my spiritual mentors and healers all on speed dial. Every time I had a cry, I would call a therapist and I would go in to see an acupuncturist. I would do all of the things. And so after, handing over my power for over 2 decades, I realized that things could be really different if I just took all of the energy that I was placing on trying to find the answer outside of myself and actually placing it within and focusing within. So as my practices have changed, that's no problem. Thanks for letting me know, Dylan. As my practices have changed along the way, as they started from being really focused from, a physical practice, this is me teaching yoga, they changed, to being more subtle energy focus. So now I do a lot of pranayama, which is breath work. I do a lot of tapping. I do a lot of physically moving energy from different parts of my body. But I never do that work without actually going within to find out why I feel the way I feel, or what's triggered me, or where it's actually come from. And so the minute we can start to explore energy medicine as 4 parts of a whole, we know that we can start to overcome some of the challenges that we're facing in our lives. We start to see that the energy centers and how they relate to our physical experiences and our spiritual experiences and our emotional experiences, combined with our personal experiences, and then learning how to unravel them. That is what sees us have lasting change. That is the magical trick that I have never heard anybody speaking of, because I've studied all of these independently. I've looked at all of these different modalities independently. Now that I've brought them all together, I feel like there's just so much to be said about how incredibly healing this work is. And I've done work with so many people, and I've been doing this work now professionally. I think it's 3 years now after having trialed and used myself as a guinea pig. And I have some really beautiful testimonials, which I'd just like to share with you because the stuff works. One of them is someone that's on this call tonight. Her name is Kaz Clarkson. She wrote a really beautiful testimonial when we did some work together about how, all of this self-exploration and the energy practices really supported her to make some lasting changes in her life. And like I said, you will get a copy of these slides, so you'll be able to read all of these testimonials as well. Another one of my clients, her name is Dante Amato. She experienced some really beautiful shifts, not only in her life and in her family, but also in her business. One of the things that I spoke to Dante about as we were working together was to follow the breadcrumbs. And if you've been, following me for any amount of time, you will know that this is something that I myself do all the time. In fact, I did an Instagram story the other day about how sometimes I don't even know what the next step is, but I know, or what the 2 steps ahead is, but I know what the next step is. And so I'm just going to follow my breadcrumbs. And by doing that, you tend to liberate yourself off any stagnant or stale energy that's within your body. Another one of my clients who's on the call tonight, Nicole, she had this goal of improving the quality of her relationships, and, had seen that this work has really helped her do that. And, if you guys want to stay on until the end, if any of my clients are still on here and anyone has any questions for them about this work, not to put you guys on the spot or anything, but I'm sure that they'd be happy to share anything that has come up for them, or any questions that you have about this work from an experiential point of view, right? So to wrap up, we look at congruency. Now, congruency can mean different things depending on whether you're looking at it from an emotional perspective or a psychotherapy perspective or even just a dictionary perspective. But when you look at psychologically, congruency just means that you want to have an experience of the ideal self and a thought of the ideal self being the same thing. And psychologically, this can be somewhat, challenging at times because we don't always think and act in the same way. But from a spiritual perspective, my distant mentor, Caroline Mace, talks about the fifth mystical law, which is spiritual congruency. And basically what this means is that your beliefs match up with your everyday actions and your spiritual practice. And you act on your belief, you believe what you say, and you follow through on guidance that comes through for you. And so when we look at congruency, this is one of the most powerful ways that I live my life. I look at all of the facets that I've been speaking to you about over the last 45 minutes, and I try and make sure that all of them align all the time. And from an energy center point of view, I look at each energy center from my own experience through the lens of belonging. So where do I belong? And not necessarily from a tribal perspective or a community perspective, but like, how do I belong to myself? How do I seek approval from things that are outside of myself rather than just checking in to see if what I'm doing is part of my plan, my own truth. I look at the way that I show up creatively in the world. I look at my self-esteem and how I show up in all of the things that I do in my business and with my family. What does my willpower look like? Am I willing to do the things that I say I'm going to do? Am I willing to show up as the biggest, boldest, most beautiful version of myself? Do I have trust in the way that I show up for the world? All of these things, they mean so much to us individually, and they can mean different things to us individually. But ultimately, once we have all of these energies aligned, we tend to live a life that is congruent, which makes us so much happier and so much more fulfilled. Connection is another one that is really of the heart space. Choice is really for the throat. Like, do we exercise our right to choose? Do we speak the things that we want, And then truth, knowing your truth, really understanding your truth, understanding your sense of power. We are all such powerful beings, and we just shrink. And it's just really sad to see so many of us shrinking to that which is outside of us. My work is really all about power, actually. Power and the freedom to choose and knowing what your own truth is so you can go out there and live it. And so just to conclude the actual workshop where we're talking about energy medicine and aligning it with the energy centers and the energy bodies, we see that we can access energy medicine not only through traditional ways, but through movement, understanding your feelings and your emotions, really getting to know the physical sensations that you have in your body. Are they new sensations? Do you tap in every morning and really understand what's going on in your physical body? What are you thinking? What are you programmed to believe? What are your stories? What are the stories you keep on telling yourself? And then we marry that up with subtle energy practices and rituals and faith, faith, whether it's in a higher power or in yourself, or that things are going to get better. Faith is such an incredible energy to tap into. And, with that, as you start to develop all of these energy medicine techniques, you will know yourself so much deeper, and you will get to experience life a little bit more fuller, and you'll feel a little bit more empowered when it comes to everyday decisions and the way that you actually move your way through the world. It's not just a one step or 5-step plan and that's it. You will find that these things tend to I suppose unveil as you continuously move through them, and that's like the peeling back of an onion layer. And so what are the next steps? What are the next steps? I did mention in the invite to this workshop that I was going to be talking about a practice that I call my lessons in truth. And this is really about the lessons that we each find within each of our energy centers of our own truth that is only there for us to discover individually. And you do that with the help of someone like me or someone else that's in this field that's really going to guide you back into your own truth. For me, there are 3 pillars of understanding your own truth. Firstly, you want to know how to live intentionally and lead intentionally, because success means nothing if you're not living in alignment and you're not congruent with all of the things that I mentioned before. You're not saying what you mean, you're not meaning what you say, and you're not following through. So you want to learn how to plug into your power source and learn how to move, shake, and recalibrate your energy so that you can empower yourself. A lot of the times I work with business owners and people who are leaders in their field, and they find that they can only get so far with the ways of the world as it is now, with hierarchical tendencies and patriarchal ways of moving through the world. Once you can learn how to soften and go within and understand your own energy and understand how you work from within, you'll find yourself so much more powerful without having to exert force. It's really, really fascinating. In fact, I recently experienced this for myself, and I can just say, without going into a story about it, that it was just really fascinating to watch how softening and really understanding intentional living and leading has changed the way that I operate in the world. The second thing is that you must want sacred embodiment, and that is a connection to something, whether it's source energy or whatever you call that divine being within and all around. I know that sacred embodiment is a commitment and it is a devotion. And so working with your shadow can be challenging at times, but if you continuously choose to expand, you know that you're going to heal, because it's through that muck that the lotus flower actually blooms. And so the deeper you go, the more expansive you become. That's just how it works. Thirdly, you want to be a change agent. Now, especially with what's going on in the world at the moment, everybody wants to go out and create change, and that's all fair and well. But if you're not tending to your own house first and foremost, if you're not going in and understanding your own triggers and your own wounds, you're going to be constantly reacting to the world outside of you. And so the world is changing at such a fast pace right now. The cookie cutter approach to living and leading won't be enough anymore. And so if you want to be a channel for grace and you want to be a change agent, you have to know what you believe in and then stand up for that. Now, the thing is, especially with social media nowadays, every new movement that comes up and every fad that happens to be quote unquote popular, everybody's just wanting to fight for these things. But the reality is that you're not meant to fight for all the things. Once you understand what your own lesson is from your own truth, then you'll stand in a really powerful way up for what you believe in. So you can take responsibility for your choices and just make change in the world. Like, this is what the whole point of everything is when it comes to self-healing. Not only about healing yourself, but it's about then having that ripple effect on everyone and everything around you. You want to be a change agent, you have to tend to your own house first, your own body, your own way of being in the world. And so I've spoken about lessons in truth. This is a mentorship that I offer for those of you who are interested. This is not, it's not just another mentorship. I can guarantee you, this is not a mentorship where we get together once a week and have a 20-minute call. And then, I give you a bunch of worksheets and then you do your homework. It's nothing like that. This is about energy medicine and emotional healing from the depths of your being. So it's not for everyone. It's for those of you who are genuinely interested in learning how to lead from your soul and cultivate and create powerful and transformational change in the world, because change is an inside job. And so you can't create change in the world unless you've actually made space within yourself to change. And so if you're looking for a place, a sacred container where you can learn about your own power and how to plug into your power, then this mentorship is for you. Like I said, I've been working with clients for a long time, where I've been working with them one-on-one. And so this work is my baby. This is like me being able to offer this work to a group of individuals, only 20 people. I'm not opening it up for any more than that, because I feel like I can genuinely support 20 people at a time. The work looks like weekly calls as a group, and then also beautiful containers for us to communicate through an online community. And so when you start to not only support one another, but also have, you're welcome, Kaz, when you start to support one another and also see yourself being able to step up and support yourself, there's just going to be so much change and transformation that happens in your life, because not only are you tending to your emotional wounds, but you'll be having these ritualistic practices that we'll be doing together and live via the community page, where you will have access to not only the recordings, but me live as well. And so the course and the program starts on the 1st of September. It runs all the way through to November. This is level 1. So it's the basics of everything we've been speaking about today, but fleshed out a lot more. And then the mentorship in itself is actually a year mentorship, which actually helps you to qualify as an energy and emotions mentor. But the way that I'm accepting applications for this particular program is only through an online application. I don't want this just to be something that you purchase and then don't follow through with. I want to make sure that this is the right program for you. I don't just want to take your money and run. I want you to understand what this program is about. And so what I've created is an online application form. And from that application form, you and I set up a call at a time that works for you. And we talk about what it is that you want from the program. And I tell you honestly whether or not this program will deliver that to you. And so I've added in the form in the chat box. It's a link to the form. It's a Google form. You fill that out and I'll read your applications tomorrow and contact you for some times where we can actually chat. This program does run for the full year. So that's also something that we can talk about if you are looking to actually create a life where you support others doing this work as well. But you have to, of course, do level 1 prior to doing level 2 and the certification. So for the purpose of this particular workshop, it's important to know that everything that I spoke about tonight is really all about level 1, and it will predominantly form the basis of the work that we do, but we'll flesh out a lot of that work a lot. It will go a lot deeper, and not only from a theoretical standpoint, it's going to get personal. So you're going to learn a lot about yourself and a lot about how you operate in the world and what your blocks are and why you react, and you know, what are your tendencies, and I'm going to be there for you every step of the way. And so the last thing that I want to mention about this is, you know, I have a really strong opinion about business being a triple bottom line. So making sure that I give back to the community. And so with this particular program, I have partnered with a business called Tree Sisters. And Tree Sisters are an incredible organization which are all about reforestation. And so I love partnering with businesses that really means something to me. For me, in this program for Lessons in Truth, one of the main things that we're going to learn a lot about is the breath, and how the breath can actually move your energy. And we're going to look at different practices that you can tap into to help you move your breath and therefore move your energy. And so what is the breath without oxygen, right? And so for that reason, I have partnered with Tree Sisters. For every month that you are in the program, I donate 1 tree to be planted on your behalf. And so for 3 months in the program, 3 trees. If you decide to do the program for the full year as a certification, 12 trees, and so forth. So I'm really excited to be partnering with this incredible organization. They do such beautiful work, and I'm really excited to donate on your behalf should you choose to come into the program with me. And so with all of that being said, I wanted to check in to see if there are any questions. Any questions? I know a couple of the participants had to leave early. I did get their notes, but there's still a few of you on the call. What is the certification called? It's called Lessons in Truth. It's my own certification. It encompasses Reiki energy healing. I'm a master practitioner. And so what it will include is a Reiki certification as well. You will need to be attuned as part of the Reiki lineage. I'm part of the Usui lineage, and that will require for us to be together in person. And so as soon as the borders open, we'll be able to travel to one another, and I can attune you. And basically what the attunement is, it's just allowing you to access higher vibrational frequencies. And so I can only do that for you in person. It's almost like an initiation, if you will. You're so welcome, Annie. I'm based in Sydney. But I do a lot of traveling. So I travel around Australia. At the moment, obviously not, but my intention is with the certifications, because it's part of the third part of the program, it happens after the first 6 months. So hopefully after that time, we are all opened, the borders are opened, and I'd be able to attune you. That's not to say that I won't attune you regardless of when the borders are open. So it's my intention to make sure that that will happen in person. And where are you based, Bronwyn? In fact, I'm also going overseas next year as well, in Melbourne. Yeah, I go in there all the time. You're in the UK, Annie. I'm going overseas next year as well. In August. I was supposed to be there right now, actually, on a trip. But obviously with everything that's going on, I'm here in Australia. So we've just postponed our trip until next year this time, which means that anyone from all over the world can be part of this certification, because I'm going to be traveling over to Europe in August next year. So the attunement can happen regardless of where you are in the world. And so, yeah, I'm so excited to be offering this. Part of the certification as well, I'm working with particular business insurances and all those sorts of things to really help people to set up their businesses and make sure that they have got, all of the information that they need to start a holistic practice when it comes to energy medicine. And I suppose what I want you to know more than anything is that this program and everything about it is my baby. This is something that I have been preparing for close to a year. The information that I've shared with you tonight is not something I just whipped up in the last hour. It's the first time in my life that I have structured a lot of information, not only to deliver it, but also in the way that I'm going to deliver it. And a lot of thought has gone into the way that I'm delivering this program. And I know that it's going to be epic. It's going to create such ripples of change. I cannot wait to meet the 20 people who are going to be in it. I have already received a couple of applications from past clients. And so we're meeting over the course of this week. So as I mentioned, only 20 participants for this round. And I'm so incredibly excited. We kick off on September 1st. So you're so welcome, Nicole. You're welcome, Lorraine. Yes, it is a lot of information to take in. So I will be sending this information through to you. And I forgot to mention, thank you guys. For those of you who choose to join me in this program that have signed up within 48 hours. So anyone who signs up within the next 48 hours, so up until the end of Wednesday night, will receive 2 free or complimentary, as they say, one-on-one sessions with me in addition to being part of the program. So the program is really group calls for level 1 and level 2. And once we get to level 3 is when you start to actually work with me one-on-one. And so we do the first level 1 and level 2 is group calls with me there as community support and, having access to me one-on-one. But as we start to progress through the certification, it's a culmination of group calls and one-on-one work with me personally. So we do fortnightly group calls, and then the next fortnight is a one-on-one. And for the purpose of level 1, it is just group calls as well as community support and live demonstrations. And for those who sign up within the next 48 hours, so up until the end of Wednesday night, Australian Eastern Standard Time, there is an opportunity for you to grab 2 complimentary sessions to work with me one-on-one. And so I have found the one-on-one work to be incredibly powerful. And it's just a really beautiful way for me to connect with you, to help you personally. So you're so welcome, Annie. I'm going to stay here and answer some of the questions privately as well. You're so welcome, Bronwyn. Anna, thank you so much for joining me live. There's nothing like presenting live. There's nothing like having all of your energy here with me live. And I'm just so incredibly grateful that you're here. So grateful. I see that there are a couple of messages that have come through for me on people who are interested. That would be really amazing for us to actually have a chat. So the mentorship is, level 1 is 1,297 Australian dollars. That's for the full 12 weeks. And level 2 is the same investment. The full year mentorship is 6,800 Australian dollars. And that comes with all of the things that you will need. So not only do you get the actual mentorship, but all other energy tools and manuals and all of the things will be sent to you. I work a lot with crystals, essential oils, Bach flower remedies, and various other tools as part of energy work. And so there is a pack that the full certification mentees will be receiving. And so that will all be for the certification, which will inevitably be a lot. The work is a lot deeper, particularly because we are doing work on a one-on-one basis as well. So yeah, it's going to be great. I've put together all of the packs for the full certification mentees. I've got so many beautiful ethically sourced crystals and beautiful essential oils that I have been using in my practice for many years. That's totally fine, Lorraine. Thank you so much for attending. You're so welcome. And I've got those all packaged up so that I can send them out. It's so exciting. More detailed information, Annie, is on my website. If you jump to Lessons in Truth, let me put this here. So my website is ariana.com.au. And if you click to the tab that says Lessons in Truth, there's a load of information on that page. Also, you'll see that it's a little bit different to what it was in the past. So I've had this information on my page for quite a while now. Like I said, this is not a new offering. I've been planning it for a very long time. This page in particular, Lessons in Truth, is just a little bit different. So I'm going to pop a link to the page in the chat. And also, if you are interested in applying, there's an apply now button, not only on that page, but also in the form that will take you directly to the apply form that I popped up earlier, that Google form. So I'm going to stay here. If there's anybody who wants to take themselves off mute and ask me any questions, you're more than welcome to do so. Anyone? I had a couple of questions that actually came through from some of the emails that I've been receiving about this program. So I may just cover those questions here as well. The schedule of this mentorship, particularly the certification, it runs from level 1 being between now and the end of November. And then we have level 2, which runs from mid-Jan for 3 months. And then the certification itself, the full mentorship, runs from mid-April all the way up until mid-August. And so by the end of August, hopefully by the time I'm in Europe, for those of you who are in Europe, you'll be attuned and certified. And for those of you who are in Australia, I'm hoping that the borders will have opened by then. And I would have been able to come to you and attune you for the certification program. You're so welcome, Anna. Thanks for being here. Thank you. So yeah, I hope that answers that. That's all right. You can go. I'm going to stay until right to the end, until there's nobody here. Quite often, 1 or 2 people want to stay and have a chat with me. And so I'm just going to hang out here until all the questions have been answered. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. It's been so great. Annie, so good to have you here, darling. I was so conscious of making sure that this workshop was at a time where my European friends could join. So thank you for hopping on. Thank you, darling. Yeah, you're welcome. Anybody else? There's only a few of us on here, so if you've got any questions, you can take yourself off mute. Yes, I do too. I've been working feverishly and I'm still working feverishly on that, to be honest, because the work's ever evolving and ever changing. And like a true artist, nothing's ever perfect, but yeah, it's going to be amazing. I'm so excited. Yeah. Sandra, did you want to take yourself off mute at all and have a chat with me? Or I know that you sent me a couple of private messages. No. You'll send me an email. Thank you. Thanks, Annie. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, darling.
Hi, Irina. Hi, Irina.
How are you?
I'm actually in a car. Sorry, can we turn the music volume up? Yeah, so I had to go for a bit, but it was really interesting, and that's why I decided to stay in.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, well, I heard the prices, and I probably live in a different financial zone, let's say.
Okay.
So I definitely cannot afford it at the time being, and yeah, I guess that opts me out. But it was really interesting to be with you. And
you're so welcome. Just so that you know, we do have payment plans that are on offer as well for those of you, for those of you, and I'm still recording, for those of you who would like a little bit of support. And I don't add any interest or anything like that on payment plans. So just so that you know, that option is always there for you as well.
Yeah. Maybe we can talk about it privately, or in email, or maybe you can share it with everyone what the payment plans are.
Yeah. So
you choose. I'm interested in knowing more.
Yes. So the payment plans are They can either be paid monthly or weekly. And so it's literally the amount. So depending on whether you're doing level 1, level 2, or the full mentorship, you would just divide that by the amount of weeks that we're working together or the amount of months. I'm not interested in charging interest. I know a lot of people do, payment plans, and then they put an extra, $500 on for admin fees. I am just going to trust that the people that I work with are here for the right reasons, and that after having had the discussions together to see whether or not this program is right for them, I have full trust that those who are working with me are here for the right reasons. So you could just take whatever that dollar figure is and divide it by 12, 24, or 52 and come up to, that figure.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome.
I'll do the calculator now. See if it's manageable.
Totally fine. And you've got my email address. You can just email me back and let me know if there's any questions and if there's anything that's come up for you.
All right.
Thanks, Sandra. Thank you. Where are you based?
I'm in Riga, in Latvia, in Europe.
Latvia.
In the Baltic states, probably you've heard.
Yeah, that's amazing. How are you experiencing the world right now?
It's great here. We're close to 0 cases, and we're on the edge of the world, and
Yeah.
the big politics and big pandemics kind of doesn't strike us, but still we experienced some lockdown in the previous month. Not at the moment though.
Oh, good. Yes. I'm glad to hear that you're in good spirits.
Yes.
Good.
I wish you well too.
Thank you, darling.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, guys. So Annie, you'll send me an email. Amazing, honey. And Ashkan, lovely to meet you. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. You've got my emails. You can ask me any questions from there. Thank you so much for joining. Take care. I need to learn how to turn this off, don't I? So save.